I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, and our meeting tonight is being audio and video recorded. So on tonight's agenda, we are going to continue our budget deliberations, but before we do that, we are going to have our police chief, Chief Richmond, speak to us a little bit more about his budget. So Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, for the FY24 budget, and please interrupt me at any time with the questions in a little bit of direction. When we were talking about the budget originally, and as I talked about the budget the last 2 years, is that the overtime budget traditionally has been woefully underfunded based on what the expenditures are. I can tell you that the average, not counting this year, because this year's an aberration, being really short-handed, but the prior 6 fiscal years, the average overtime expenditure for the police department is about $441,000. That's going back to FY17. The budget model that we're currently on, where gives me somewhere around $255,000 to $260,000 in overtime. And that's the budget model that was established coming into the FY20 fiscal year, which would be back in May town meeting of 2019, which would be pre my tenure as chief. And at that time, the town had adopted, my understanding, as I was looking at it from the union side, the town had adopted a different methodology, so to speak. We had 2 full-time civilian dispatchers. The town negotiated with the union to give up the right of first refusal for the midnight officer on the desk in lieu of it hiring some additional full-time dispatchers, to hire 2 additional full-time dispatchers. The thought being that it was a little cheaper to pay dispatchers, and by having more full-timers, you would in theory spend less overtime. At the same time, the town committed to hiring additional police officers, a total of 3, which would they work the 4 on and 2 off schedule, that would have added an extra officer to the day shift and an extra officer to the 4 to 12 shift. With the thought being that the first officer on that shift would not be replaced if they were out, sick, in service, holiday, things of that nature. So the way the budget, my understanding, the way the budget model was arrived at is they took the previous year's overtime expenditure, which was for FY19 was somewhere in the vicinity of $455,000. They took $200,000 from the overtime budget, from the expenditures, added it to regular salaries to account for the extra 3 people coming on, and then took another $100,000 from outside the budget and added that to the dispatch salaries to bring them up to be able to fund full-time dispatches. There wasn't a lot, I'm not going to say there wasn't a lot of thought, because that sounds somewhat degrading, but there wasn't like a thought put into how many of these shifts that we're replacing. There was no real breakdown. It was like, well, we'll take $200,000 from here, from overtime, put it into regular salaries, because that will be about the cost of hiring 3 police officers at the time, to put them on, and then add the $100,000 into regular salaries for dispatch. So there was no science, equation, algorithm, or anything like that that was done to calculate where that number was coming from. People take different days off. Some people take the same days off. There's no exact science to calculate the overtime. You can in quote unquote normal year. Unfortunately, I'm coming into my 4th year as chief, and I haven't had a normal year yet. Thank you COVID, thank you police reform, thank you, deployments, thank you state police, between losing people. So we haven't had a normal year. The closest thing we had to a normal year was probably FY20, when the overtime was somewhere about 390, I believe. That's probably a realistic number. And I think the first time I came before this board, which seems like 100 years ago, back in 2020, was, the overtime budget was, I talked about it being underfunded then, and I think my the conversation was, well, what do you think it should be? And at the time, I think it's somewhere between what we spent last year and what we are now, which would probably be another $150,000 over where we are now. I think that's a safe number. I don't think it's been fair in past years where it's been underfunded, and then at the end of the year, you're running around and stealing money from other departments and other sources to try to fill in, to fill our gap. The number is, I'm not gonna say the number is the number, we can do something to trim it a little bit, when we're fully staffed, but the number is a number. If we know that number is gonna be around about $400,000, I certainly think the police department should be budgeted that, and I think the trust on behalf of the town, the board and everyone, should be put into me as a department head that, hey, at the end of the year, if it gets into June, we've only spent $325,000, don't think it's gonna be open season, I'm gonna have 10 people a day coming in, sweeping the parking lot, sweeping the inside of the station, whereas I can then give the money back to other departments. That's the reality. I think my understanding, and we're going back even further, is that number has been generally accepted for a long time, and that things have been made to fit at town meeting. And this is pre this administration, pre me. Things have been made to fit at town meeting, and then at the end of the year, it's just like, well, we'll get the money and it'll work. And it has, but unfortunately, it's getting to the point now where it's the money isn't there. The free cash isn't there, or budgets are lean across the board, so the money isn't there. It's not fair to other departments. And rest assured, and I've said this before, and I'll repeat myself again, the overtime that the police department is spending is to make sure we have somebody to answer your 911 call, and then that we have the minimum number of officers on the road to be able to answer those calls. It's not to put, like I said, 10 people, my best analogy, 10 people in on a Sunday for 8 hours to sweep the garage. That's not what it is. Very rare do we schedule extra people. If it is, there's a reason, there's a parade, there's a storm, things of that nature. I can count on my hand, on one hand, the number of times that I've, scheduled more than 1 or 2 extra people, but it was in direct correlation to some sort of an event or situation that was going on.
So it's basically purely to make sure that you're fully staffed for different shifts.
Yes, and I'm not, yes, the short answer is yes, at the minimum accepted level.
For the safety of the officers, the safety of the public.
Correct. And I can tell you with an incident, you probably read about it in the news today, or saw it in the news today. We had an incident, we could have had 20 people on last night and it wouldn't have been enough. And that's not gonna happen. Luckily, it happened at the change of shifts.
Right.
Where we had enough for our own people, and then we were able to get extra assets in there in a short amount of time because it was a change of shifts and things came out good. I mean, you can't, you're not planning for that. We're not, when we have officers tied up on normal calls, like say somebody's at the hospital with an arrestee or somebody's tied up on an investigation, we're not calling in extra people to say, okay, well, let's put you here just in case something happens. We're running down to that level, and then we go from there. But we're just trying to put the minimum number of people that are needed, and a minimum isn't 5, 10, 15 or anything like that. I mean, it's.
How long has it been since you've been fully staffed with just a normal amount of full-time officers?
It actually wasn't that. It seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. From roughly July of 2021 till about, well, I would say July of 2021 till about October of 2021. But then, but in reality, I mean, I'm just in the way moving some people around. I would say, in honesty, July 2021 till May of 2022. In my tenure, has been the only time that we've been close to fully staffed.
Okay.
And we're on our way back there now. It's just a matter of time right now. We're on our way back there. It's just that we need to get there.
Until the next officer gets deployed or applies to state or...
Correct.
You're just never gonna stop that. I don't know what the answer is to stop the
Well,
bleeding.
my point, the reason why I asked about the last time you were fully staffed was because I'm looking at 21 and 22. So in 2021, the salaries was, overtime was $390, and then in 2022, it was 473,000.
Well, that's why I say, I'm sorry.
So even though you were fully staffed, overtime budget was still up there.
Well, we were fully staffed till May of like May 5th of 2022. That first week of May, we lost.
Okay, all right.
We lost 4 full-timers, so we lost 4 full-timers for the last 2 months of the year.
So just those 2 months being short, full-timers,
Correct.
increased the overtime budget significantly then?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can see some of it comes out of permanent, right? Because if you're not paying them their full-time, their
Mhm.
normal pay,
Yep.
that gives us a little bit of excess to then put into the overtime line item, but it's not enough. I guess, Mr. Kelly, in the past, where have we gotten the shortfall? Because we've always been short. How has it worked in the past? Because obviously the concern is.
You have a mechanism that the state gives towns that as of May, you can look at unexpended funds and transfer them between departments with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen's approval. And then you also have the opportunity of using the reserve fund, whatever's left in that, and you can go to town meeting and make up the deficit out of free cash or other funds that are available.
I guess the first option assumes there is, to the chief's point, it assumes there is excess, because I'm assuming that we can only tap into the town side budgets. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we can tap into 40% of the town's money.
You don't see more than 50 come back from the school in a year.
Yeah, but that should change this year, right? Because we've got the tuition that's over, we've got the credits,
Well,
the solar credits, right? So that's the stuff that we talked about the other day. The
The
expectation is
tuition
that that's
will,
coming back.
the tuition will return and then go, either you could, we're waiting, but they'll appropriate what they need into the sped reserve out of the tuition return, which will be about 45,000.
Is there normally excess money allocated to the sped reserve on a normal year?
That would bring it up to the maximum allowed by law.
But it normally happens every year, right?
Yeah.
So wherever you get it from the normal year, presumably still exists this year, which means there's still excess. You see
And
what I'm saying? So-
that'll come back to the town,
Yeah,
and the town will most likely have it on a pass-through and then be free cash.
I guess, yeah, the point being that we know of 3 definite funding excess sources, right? We've got the tuition, the excess in the tuition to Fairhaven. We've got the excess in the utility costs because we have all those credits we hadn't been utilized, which are now being utilized as of January, right? We've got some other stuff that was budgeted at a much higher number than what is actually being spent on, specifically some salaries and things of that nature that got added into this budget. So those, I guess, are the 9 items that we talked about that I would expect would be coming back
From
So-
the school,
from the school.
as I said, usually it's about 50,000 that comes back, correct?
Yeah, but we also don't have $300,000 of excess tuition costs to Fairhaven in there. We don't have all the $100 and some odd thousand in solar credits. So,
I would like to see hundreds of thousands. And
I guess I'm just, yeah.
I expect the difference between the, let's say, 45,000 that goes into the sped reserve account that they'll put in, and then the balance will either come to town meeting to be appropriated into a reserve account, stabilization account, or will pass through and then the next year will be certified as free cash.
I guess I guess back to the police, we can't, there's no tapping of the school, which has 50 some odd % of the town's budget, relying on the other towns to be able to fund the shortfall in the police department is problematic in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, year to year, correct.
Yes.
So, that's,
Well, especially this year, because all the other town departments, they're
There's
pretty
no-
lean already.
there's no excess, right? There's
Not a
no,
lot of fat
there's
there.
no add-ons in any of the other department except taking a full-time librarian and make a part-time into a full-time. From my recollection, that is the one thing that we did on the town size budgets. I don't know that there's gonna be excess to go anywhere to cover this requirement.
We will know the deficit at some point in the next month. We'll have a pretty good idea what we can do, and if there'll be transfers, or whether we're also reserving some free cash that we can appropriate at town meeting.
But I guess looking at next year, if we're supposed to present a balanced budget, in my mind, it's not balanced when you know you're gonna have a shortfall, and a significant shortfall like this. That to me is not a balanced, budget when you know it's not balanced. So I guess that's my dilemma, and why we wouldn't just make that the right number, or the more realistic
Or
number.
maybe closer to that.
Closer to,
You know,
yeah, right.
maybe meet halfway, so it's not such a
Such a
big
problem
gap
afterwards.
later on. I think that's the approach we should probably take.
Because the reserve fund alone can't cover this shortfall.
I would,
Can't count on that.
I would say this committee probably should approve this police budget, and then when we look before we actually publish, return to it and see if you can, the staff can point you to some funding sources and increase the overtime.
So go with this from now.
But go with this now, because as a preliminary approval, but not a final approval. Because I can't tell you right now how much money might be able to appropriate in there.
So you're gonna have a closer number before this has to go out to print?
So want to just table it for now, no?
I would say, because this could be the number. I'm not saying I can find it. Absent having it taken from another large budget, and then that's not my authority.
So have we utilized 255,000 already in overtime?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
I
it's
think a
probably
few
more
months
than
ago,
that, right?
probably.
Yeah, I only have the,
Dick?
do you have that number currently?
Yeah, I just posted
March.
the payroll for this week, so, year-to-date, 144,000 in the negative.
Oh, yeah, okay. In the hole already. With 3 months to go. What are we averaging for,
About $20,000 every pay period, $19,000 to $20,000 a pay period in overtime.
all right, so we're gonna reach
40,000
42.
a month.
Oh, pay period,
40,000.
Yeah, 2-week
40,000.
pay period, yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh,
That's another 120.
250. We're gonna be 250, 260.
I do.
Over.
Over and overtime, I do have, I did some quick calculations for the overage that we have in the regular line items, because we're not paying people for positions that we don't have. So there is an overage, I calculated so far an overage there, and about $150,000 in regular salaries. Because
That'll
we
help a
had
little.
open positions, and then the 3 that we have on military leave, we're entitled to pay them the difference in salary between the military pay and their town pay, their base pay, but that's only a percentage, and we're only entitled to do that for 6 months, which we stopped paying 2 of them in January, and the 3rd one we stopped paying first week of February. Does that sound about right, Nick? Yeah.
All right, so
So
that
is
ends
it-
up being almost a wash then from where the
So we're about
We're at right
100
now.
short.
We're gonna be 100
Yeah.
short.
overall.
But is it,
Yeah.
and obviously, let's look at the date, how much time we have left. Maybe there isn't a whole lot we can do, but I think next budget cycle, we need to start with the right number.
Or-
And there is no discussions of balancing until that number is the right
Or
number.
push it towards that number.
Push it, yes, and
Yeah.
maybe we can't absorb a full, a full,
At one time.
a one-time
You're
correction, but I think next year's budgets have to start with a more realistic number, because this is not balanced.
Well, I think part of the chief's dilemma is the staffing issue,
Right.
you know, particularly this year, right? I mean, hopefully that's gonna get better going into next year.
Knock on wood, this upcoming fiscal year, FY '24, you know, I joke, and I really shouldn't joke like this, if we just get half of the people that are supposed to be, you know, online for us, we're gonna be in real good shape.
Are you having any issues with trying to recruit guys salary-wise, or?
Yes and no. Experienced officers, you know, we're civil service, so it's gonna be through the civil service exam, so there have been a few that have come up through there, but they're not gonna leave the departments that they're at now because they are,
Yeah, they're not jumping.
they're not jumping,
to come here,
they're not
going
jumping to come
the
to
other way.
us. I mean, at the point right now, we have 3 in the full-time academy right now that are about, you know, about a third of the way through, a little more than a third of the way through.
Mhm.
I would be honest with you, I'd be surprised in 3 or 4 years if all 3 of them are still here. They're, you know, they're go-getters, you know, I mean, they perform well, and, you know, unfortunately, we become a poaching ground, and we have been for some time. Mr. St. Jean can attest to that. It's gone on for 20 years, you know. We have officers that put their time in here that are sergeants and lieutenants and deputy chiefs in other departments, and, you know, my tenure, you know, here. Just can't keep them.
Right.
And again, they're making a jump to larger departments that are, you know, once you get toward 495, inside 495, different tax base, different dynamic and whatnot, you know, so, you know, those departments obviously pay more. But there was a little bit of a lull with that when I first started. I think a lot of that had to do with COVID, when nobody was going anywhere, and everybody was just kind of like, let's just see how everything is. There was a lull. You know, so the only 2 people, well, shortly before I actually officially became chief, we did lose somebody to Taunton. And then we didn't lose anybody to another department until we lost the 2 to the state police in May of last year. But that's not to say that there was 1 or 2 that weren't, you know, looking, and that had talked to me and looking at different departments. And just having a conversation, they ultimately didn't go, but it's there. I mean, it's that threat is, or that reality is there, that,
So you're not seeing a lot of other departments knocking at your door and guys from other departments saying, hey, you have any openings?
no,
It's always the other way around.
yeah.
Okay.
One of the issues on that is a number of departments are going non-civil service. And this department being civil service,
Mm-hmm.
so they're somewhat restricted who they
Limits the
can
pool.
hire. And with the departments that are non-civil service, they can offer promotion different from what we can offer promotion.
Well, I wouldn't say that's 100% accurate. If we want to do like promotions, you know, it used to just take the exam, you take the written exam, and that was the accepted method for a long period of time. Starting with actually myself, when we went through the selection for chief, we did an assessment center, and we did that within the purview of civil service. That's allowed. So civil service does allow that, and that's actually what I would recommend for any promotions we do going forward. But that initial hiring is a written test, and it's always being challenged, and, you know, it's been through probably about 6 incarnations since I've been on the job, where we're gonna do the test this way, we're gonna do it that way, we're gonna do it this way. Most recently, the promotional exams used to take into account education and experience. There was a well-defined equation as to how many points you would get. So you knew walking into that exam, I'm gonna get X amount of points because I have a bachelor's degree, I've been on X amount of years, I'm a certified state instructor in this subject. So you were able to determine what that number was gonna be walking into the exam. This past fall, there was a challenge to the exam, and they threw the education and experience out.
I know 3 people that's affected.
And it just, so the civil service, you know, the exam, well, it's not perfect. A civil service process, should say, is not perfect. With them adopting like the ability for communities to use the assessment center for promotions, I'm 100% behind that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a such thing as an assessment center for the entry level.
You're not restricted to residency requirements for officers.
No, residents will go to the top of our
Priority.
list. Yeah. And then it'll go residents, and then it'll go, once you go out of town, it'll go, you know, the veteran status and, you know, based on scores and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Do you have like a 2 or 3 year period, once they get hired, that they can't jump ship before a 2 or 3 years?
The only thing that's technically keeping them here, there's two things that would technically keep them with the department. The first one is the one that we hold. If they're gonna leave, if they wanna leave us to go to another civil service department, say New Bedford, Taunton, Easton, we have to, the appointing, I should say we, I say collectively, the Board of Selectmen, the appointing authority, have to sign off on letting them go. As in the incoming,
There's no mandatory time?
no, the only other
I thought
thing, to
there
a
was
lesser
a few
degree,
years back, they
the only other thing to a lesser degree that keeps them here is the academy fee, just the fee to go to the academy is about $3,200. And what we do is the town pays that up front, and then we deduct it from their paycheck, at a tune to $50 per pay period till it's paid off. Once they are here 3 years, they are entitled to that, you know, $3,200 back. But that's the only thing that's keeping them here, and I can tell you.
I thought it was they couldn't leave the department.
I would say the only thing would be a year because of civil service probation. That'd be the only thing that keeps them would be a year, because to be honest with you, I've heard instances, not with us, but instances where other departments are collecting a $3,000 or $5,000 fee to go to the academy and holding it for 3 to 5 years to keep the people there, where departments that are looking to poach that person will pay that fee. You know, we'll pay that fee for the person to.
So they get it back either way.
Yeah. You know, to get it, but really the only thing is being a civil service department is that year probation where they're not gonna go anywhere, but then if they're gonna go to a civil service department, the Board of Selectmen has to sign off on them. But if they wanna go to a non-civil service department, we can do nothing to stop them.
Chiefs Association, you gotta get together and stop all the poaching.
Well, there used to be an academy, it used to be a chief, now retired, that was involved in one of the police academies that was infamous for coming in the last week. And you'd have somebody that went through 18 weeks in the academy with one patch, and when they graduated, they had that department's patch on there. He was involved in the academy, and that's, you know, I'm not sure if that's an ethics violation, but it
Sure,
Sounds like it should be.
sounds like it to me. It seemed to me, but.
Chief, my memory is, going back for a couple of years, that the police department here has always had a problem, a retention problem.
Mhm.
There are a number of reasons for that in my own mind, but we're not competitive, I don't believe, with pay, outside opportunities. Because you're a small department, you're restricted to certain limitations. But when I look at the number of really good police officers that started in this department, worked here for a number of either months or years, and then gone on to other different departments like you alluded to before. They've become deputy chiefs and sergeants, lieutenants, and so there are other opportunities. So it's not just a pay, it's an opportunity thing. But what do you think that we need to do in our community to retain these people?
Well, you know, the pay is the obvious thing, you know, the contract, not to speak on behalf of the contract, is, you know, like a lot of contracts are unsettled, and it's going into almost the tail end of year 2, but really the opportunity as well, the opportunity for advancement is to do different things. The way our department's configured right now, it goes, you know, officer, sergeant, chief. And it's been like that forever. We've never had something between sergeant and chief. And a department our size, you add one position, or you create a new position, or you have a promotion. For instance, when I became chief, I came from detectives. I was a detective sergeant, so I went from detective sergeant to chief. A uniform sergeant got the opportunity to become a detective sergeant. That sergeant vacated a shift that another sergeant was working a shift that he didn't want to work, and went to that shift. So just that, like, one promotion within the department, you know, affected really like 3 or 4 people in a positive way, you know, in reassignment and having the opportunities. You know, I had ideas, you know, if we were fully staffed, you know, and, you know, we have detectives running, is that maybe run, you know, some of the younger officers through detectives, maybe like for a 6-week period, just kind of a trial, just to kind of get the feel of it. Nothing permanent, but when scheduling allowed, depending on the time of year, the slow time of year, let's, you know, as far as vacation and stuff, let's give other people the opportunity to kind of get into these positions and do things like that. There's a certain amount of interest in that, but you know, when I was promoted to sergeant, you know, there were 3 of us that were promoted, but I can't tell you when the next promotion to sergeant's gonna be. You know what I mean? So if you're on the job, you got 3 or 4 years, and you're looking, oh, what do I wanna do? And you're looking down the road, everything seems to come in clusters, so to speak. You know, we're all of a sudden like, you know, there's a number of us that are in that same age group, so to speak. When we go, so to speak, in theory, you're gonna have a chief and 3 sergeants within probably, 2 years of each other or a year of each other going. You know, it's still a little ways off. But it's, you know, it's like if you don't, you gotta kind of strike while the iron's hot. I think a second in charge would certainly open things up, so people can kind of say, okay, I have a pathway to do something, even if I don't get to that job, the person that's doing this job will go over here, then potentially I can do this, maybe I can become a detective, or I can become a school resource officer, or things of that nature. From what I see, I mean, pay is certainly important, but opportunity to do different things is just as important. And we've tried to do that in the time here, even going back to Chief Alves. Whereas if a patrol officer got involved in a case and was doing something, it wouldn't happen all the time, but if it was an in-depth case, Chief Alves, and as have I, allow that officer to go with the detectives to kind of pursue that case. And it would happen once in a while, but it was a great opportunity. Great opportunity. It was developing people and giving them the opportunity to kind of shine and spread their wings beyond the normal patrol.
Would things such as like other, like a motorcycle detachment, would that stuff be motivational?
Well, we do have motorcycle. We do have one officer that's motorcycle certified. He went to a class about a year and a half ago. We have bicycles. We have 3 officers that are bicycle certified. We have the bicycles. Unfortunately, the staffing in the last year hasn't really allowed us to use that part of it. We also have opportunities when staffing allows with the different regional units that are out there. The regional SWAT unit, the regional search and rescue unit. There's opportunities for officers to join those when we have
staffing to do it.
And it's a great opportunity because there's training once or twice a month, and there's different call-outs and things of that nature. And a lot of times you get to go to another communities.
You have more experience than you would here.
And you get that experience there in what we like to call an away game, if you know what I'm saying, where you're kind of on the side and you see how things are run in different situations, and you bring that knowledge back here. We see that a lot with some of the few officers that we do have involved in regional undertakings now.
So would it be fair to say that the staffing issue is a big problem? And that's something that should be addressed?
Keeping the staffing level, where quote unquote where it should be, close to where it should be, would afford different opportunities. It would also reduce overtime to some degree, and also at some point looking at that second in charge to create that clear that clear chain of command. In continuity operations, I joke around. I'm like, listen, I'm not fooling myself. I know if I don't show up to work tomorrow, that hey, there might be a couple bumps in the road, but people will figure it out and it'll go. But that's not the way it should be.
No.
I'm away on vacation. I'm lucky that I have some senior officers, senior sergeants that I'm comfortable handling instances on the street. But because of staffing, I can't involve them in much, nor can I in some of the admin duties that management is responsible for. So those really just fall to me. I have some of them. Some of the duties I'm able to farm out, and the officers are able to do it. They're helping me out and kind of developing themselves. But administratively, there needs to be that backup there. There needs to be that backup.
I know Chief Alves is trying to get a deputy as well position.
It goes back. I got on. When my interview to get on the job initially here was in 1994. Shortly after that, there was a push. There was a interview to promote somebody to lieutenant, and I was too new at the time, like just not even coming on the department yet. And there was a whole snafu. Talk to whoever you want that was around back then. And the position was there, then it wasn't there, and then it was never revisited.
Yeah.
But the job's changed.
That second in command has been talked about for a number of years within the finance committees. And a couple of chiefs, including yourself, have put together or put forward a comprehensive program or reasoning and need assessment So, it's not, the finance committee's within our purview to push that forward, but it's probably something that we should try to encourage going forward with the selectmen and the town administrator.
Well,
You're not gonna hear an argument from me, Mr. St. Jean.
I mean, that being said, Mr. St. Jean, I think, because we have a small town, we're just a small town, our resources, unfortunately, are also small. So we don't have a big tax revenue to draw from, right? And I think that's probably gonna be an ongoing problem, unfortunately, where we just can't compete with some of the other bigger municipalities with regards to pay. I mean, because, all right, so if we pay somebody what they pay in the city of New Bedford or Fall River, I don't know what the big difference is. I've never done an analysis of that, anything like that. I mean, where's that gonna put us, right? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, other departments have gotta be having this pinch. The same thing, smaller town, Berkeley, Freetown. They
As
have-
far as staffing, everybody's in the same boat. You see,
Right.
Everybody's in the same boat, staffing wise and whatnot. The only thing I would say, you're gonna struggle to find a department our size, even smaller, that runs it without a second in charge, a non-union member of management.
How many officers are there?
Right now, counting to three, we'll have 20. We'll have 20 when the three get back from the military, 20 full-time, and we have 3 in the academy, but those are trying to preempt it. So we're gonna have 23 full-time officers.
3 sergeants, 4 sergeants?
No, right now, currently we have 7 sergeants.
7 sergeants.
Yeah.
Chief, I got a question. I mean, each municipality sets like an age limit, right? As far as you cannot be beyond this age to get hired, right? So with the problem of getting people to work or just getting people to do police work, because a lot of people probably don't want to go into this right now, unfortunately. Would like the town ever consider bumping up the age? So let's say somebody 40 could go into the police academy if they wanted to. Do you ever see something like that happening? I mean, it's just so we have more of an ability to draw from a bigger group of individuals by expanding the age.
Yeah, I mean, the cutoff for Acushnet right now is 32. That's like I think that's like a statute or a, I don't know, what not a bylaw.
Civil
but
service.
It's under civil service.
But isn't it?
But that could actually be, I won't say that waived. I want to say that, we see that 32 age limit, but it's one of those things that you hear about in other communities where if it's of a challenge, it just goes away. But to your point with, somebody 40 years old coming over, going to an academy, I think we'd be more likely that we'd be able to get somebody over here on a lateral transfer, that has maybe 10 or 15 years of experience that's looking to leave. Maybe, again, some of this is dependent on salary, but might be looking to leave the hustle and bustle of where they are for something that's a little different. I mean, we have our moments, but it's not, most,
Right.
it's not start to finish every day like it is in other communities.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know there was some distaste very early, couple months into my tenure, where I was entertaining taking someone that previously had worked here to come back, for maybe 5 to 7 years. But there was a distaste at the time, and it had to do with pension costs and healthcare costs, once they retired. So that just kind of petered out.
Yeah. All right. So,
I do have a note for next year to make sure that this line item is more adequately reflected, so. I'll make sure of that.
Oh, it will be, don't worry about that.
well, we're probably gonna work on that this year.
I think we beat this one pretty good.
And again, not to belabor the point, but, when I came in 2020 and first came before you, it was, the beginning of COVID, it was like, we're just gonna leave everything where it was. That would have been the first year that we realized that the model from the previous year wasn't gonna work. Basically just taking the 200 from overtime and putting it into regular salaries. So that was, let's leave everything as it is because it's COVID and we don't know what's going on. The following year was, hey, the contract's expired. The guidance, and this is not current administration, the guidance that I was given was leave everything as is. We'll adjust it once the contract's settled. And that's kind of like how we kind of where we are right now, kind of still in limbo.
In my experience, both on municipal level and state level, public safety overtime has always been underfunded.
But to this extent?
Huh?
To this extent?
Yeah. A lot of communities.
But then when you're relying on the rest of the town budgets to help cover the shortfall, that's my,
Or you rely on the fact you're very conservative in revenue estimates, and in some communities, they get a lot more money from the legislature in the final state aid figures than this community does.
yeah, but we can't, that's the point being, we can't rely on that because that doesn't happen to Acushnet. It's the struggle between delivering a balanced budget that you know is not balanced and not everyone playing nice in the sandbox.
While we have the chief here, does anybody else have any questions for Chief Richmond?
No.
Chief, thanks for coming in
No, no
tonight.
problem.
Thanks.
Very helpful, gives us a better idea of where you're at and, what you're up against with regards to this, so thank you for
So I
coming.
appreciate the opportunity, again, the invitation I always extend to the board individually. If anybody ever wants to reach out, come in, I can, explain other things in detail, just answer questions over the phone or something. If you have any detailed questions, specific questions, don't be afraid to give me a call, I'm always there.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, sir.
Thank you.
See you
Thanks, Chief.
tomorrow
Yes.
morning.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, do you want to go into any updates on,
How about the warrant first, just so everyone knows where we stand? About 2/3 of the warrant has been drafted, as far as maybe 3/4, the warrant articles. The fire chief's here, we've got 2 articles concerning, well, actually 3 concerning the fire department, if you'd like to take them out of order, and then he can get
Yeah, I
on
mean,
with his
well, yeah.
life.
yeah, if we're going to
Gotta go
address
with the
these.
reserve fund.
Oh,
I was gonna say, can we get a reserve fund so we can go?
Yeah,
yeah,
Whenever we're ready.
we can do the reserve fund.
all right.
Absolutely.
I hate keeping people here late that don't really need to be.
Chief wants to spend time with us. Bond, connect.
It's only been 23 years, what's another hour?
Yeah, right?
So the reserve fund request that you have in front of you is for $41,000. And that is to put $17,000 into building repair and $24,000 into vehicle repair. I believe we did touch base on this at one point several months back. The heating unit at our Station 3, which is our primary ambulance facility, went down, and unless we did this emergency repair, they would not turn the heat back on, which is problematic, not just because there's an ambulance, a fire engine, and a crew that stays out of that building, but that's where all of our medical supplies also live. So we needed to get that fixed. The building repair also includes 3 different garage door repairs. We're still waiting for parts to come in, so they haven't been fully completed, but they're in process. And the vehicle repair was, we had some water pipe issues on the pump on Squad 2, and we needed to replace the entire fuel system on Rescue 1, which is the 2016 ambulance.
And not the ambulance that was down.
Not the
before.
one that was the full engine the year before.
So nothing on the warranty is what you're saying?
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
They have that figured out to a T.
Yeah,
You know,
it fails,
problem starts,
it
and
fails
the
1 month
warranty's over.
after warranty expires.
Well, they haven't
Ford,
been trying to get in
so-
touch with you about the extended warranty?
Water heater.
I got a call
Right.
the other day about one.
What was that, Aaron? Yeah.
So we've already made, we've made the repairs because they were emergency repairs. So we
Correct.
just gotta give you the
Yeah.
money now at this point.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean,
All right, so we heard Chief's explanation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Your motion and a second, any further discussion? No further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Chief, this is all set,
Thank you.
passes?
The three articles directly concern the fire department. We've talked, and four articles actually. We talked about the fire apparatus already with this committee, I believe.
It's a forestry truck.
Tanker.
Tanker, I'm sorry.
Yep.
The price has gone up a little bit.
Shocker.
Right. I actually like Mr. Gasper's idea of making a smoker out of the old one.
That's
Well,
still in limbo.
if
I'm
we-
still waiting to find out how much of a trade-in value
Yeah, well,
Or is townwide cookout
from the
on it?
dealers and.
We'd rather the trade-in value, please.
Because we have so many cookouts in town.
Well, you can get more money as a
Start.
smoker.
But
Yeah,
it's,
you can charge for the smoker.
Exactly.
but
We're gonna
it's,
rent it out
See?
now,
There you
really?
go.
but it's $465
Acushnet
now.
barbecue?
Correct, Chief?
Correct, 465.
Need a good
It's
barbecue
not
joint.
what was advertised in the paper at $475.
Some brisket?
Yep.
The second article is an article that concerns the assistant call fire chief. Presently, there's an age restriction, and at the direction of the Board of Selectmen, and this is not unusual, we're filing a home rule petition with the legislature to exempt the assistant call fire chief from that age restriction. It is because he was paid, we have to go this route, even though he's not part of the retirement system. And rather than lose all that experience, there is provisions in the typical home rule petition that the Board of Selectmen can demand physical fitness, mental fitness, etc., through a period of years after the mandatory retirement age to keep the person on the job. There's no cost to this article. Anything you want to say, Chief?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't want to lose the experience. He's one of the probably dozen or so that show up the most. He performs at every drill. He's constantly showing up some of the younger guys to kind of kick them in the pants. So he's very capable of continuing to do the job at a high level, and just the knowledge base is
There's no
definitely
safety
something I need.
concerns, right? You have no safety.
I have
yeah.
zero concern.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I think it's good to have an older person like that who's in
Seasoned,
good
can we
shape.
use the word seasoned?
A seasoned
please?
person like
Thank you.
that who keeps himself in shape and sets an example for
Yes,
the younger
correct.
guys or girls. And I think it's a great thing, you know?
As a matter of fact, he was actually the lead of the crew yesterday that we sent to the city to cover one of their stations while they were.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you,
massive
did you
fire.
guys have to help last night? What
Yeah,
happened in Bedford?
we sent an ambulance that pretty much stayed at the scene. They provided first aid to some of the firefighters and
Yeah.
and people, bystanders around. And we had a fire engine covering the south end of New Bedford.
And when were they didn't request a ladder for?
The city doesn't usually request a ladder, so how mutual aid works.
They brought Dartmouth.
They bring in
That's what I was
Dartmouth.
asking.
Yeah,
I was asking.
how mutual aid works is each community creates what we call run cards. So the chief of that community creates how they want the resources around them to be brought in and when. So there might be a time where the ladder gets brought to a different community,
Mhm.
but we're not high up on the list just because it's new to us, regardless of the fact that it's been here for 5 years.
Mhm.
It's still new to us where all the other communities already had them, so it just doesn't
An
get
experience
used as
level kind
much
of thing on
as.
Going back to the tanker, it was mentioned that it has a ladder as well.
Yep, we are actually having ladders installed. It won't have a ladder like the aerial ladder.
Okay.
It'll have a 24-foot extension ladder and a 14-foot roof ladder.
Okay, so it's something they pull off the truck?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yep.
So that's all included in the price?
Correct.
So what's the actual price bumped up to now?
$465.
$465, okay.
Correct.
The next article is a article that we've had a couple discussions with town council, and the best way to do this is we have to order an ambulance. And to procure it, you have to get in the queue. And it takes about 2 to 3 years for delivery.
They're between 2 years and
That's crazy.
30 months, which is 2.5 years.
It's customized.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So they're all custom built to order.
Yep.
And so the methodology we came up with is to put an article in with the price, the chief is getting the price, with, as a borrowing article. However, we do not borrow the amount of money. But that gives us the ability to order the ambulance
At today's price.
at the
To
price.
order it, and then to
At
be
the,
purchased.
at the
Right.
price when the VIN number's assigned.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is in
And
for
at,
2 years, right?
and at
About a
that,
year
at that
Takes about a
point, uh,
to get the VIN.
we
It's
can
just a
then
chassis.
come back to the town, appropriate the money necessary, and rescind the borrowing.
So the borrowing is basically for the down payment to hold it?
No,
It's
it's
just
not, we're
give
not
us the
borrowing, it's just a
ability.
placeholder.
It's the ability to
Okay.
order to get in the queue.
Yep,
Because, so we have, and
It's-
the issue is we've got 2
it's
ambulances.
creative ordering.
Yeah.
The issue is that the ambulance is gonna need to be replaced, and if we don't take action
Correct.
now, we could find ourselves being short an ambulance because it's not gonna be
Correct.
In 2
operational.
years?
So we have a 2016 and a 2017 that are already 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah.
If we wait the 2 years to order it when we would need to, now we're not getting it for 10. By then, it could be even longer.
Yeah.
And now we have an 11 and 12-year-old ambulance that are getting used multiple times daily, each of them.
Mhm.
What's the useful life on an ambulance typically?
Depending on use, between 5 and 8 years.
So we're there.
We're getting close.
And we ran this method by town council, and they said it was legal.
It's smart. It's,
That makes
it's
sense.
being
Yeah,
proactive
get ahead of it.
instead of reactive.
And unless the number went up in the last 3 weeks, it's $488,000
For an ambulance.
For an ambulance?
for an ambulance.
That's not bad, actually, right? 'Cause
No, that's
Bedford pays
expensive.
a lot.
Yeah.
That's,
The last one we bought 6 years ago was $288,000, so.
It's inflation.
We will be carrying the borrowing on our books, even though we don't borrow.
Don't actually borrow it. But realistically, if this is $500,000,
You could,
we might have to.
down the road, but
Because where else, I mean, granted, we've got it for the fire apparatus this year, but would we have $500,000 sitting in free cash? Like ultimately, we might have to borrow to fund this.
you might.
I don't want to, but realistically, I mean, it's called a spade, like realistically, we might have to be there.
The ambulance receipts, no?
I would not be
Depends on what else
able
we use.
to guarantee anything 2 years down the road.
what does 488 get? Is that just the chassis? Is that?
No, that is the
Fully
complete
equipped.
ambulance.
That's fully equipped. The
Cut.
stretcher, you're just taking it from the old truck, putting it in a new truck?
Nope, that would include a new stretcher.
If we're buying the
Shoot the
ambulance, I
nuts.
hope to God we get a freaking new
Can we get the
stretcher.
extended warranty on
That
it?
would be, the only thing
Can
that
we
wouldn't
factor in
cover,
the extra for that? I like.
the only thing that wouldn't cover would be, say, like the heart monitor and all of the actual equipment that gets loaded in it, but the stretcher is a part of that, and all of the different, like the siren.
We would pick up the
radios.
cost to transfer the radios and that stuff.
The CPR
That's
machine and
usually,
stuff too?
that's usually, yeah, that's all transferred in, that doesn't come included in the
That's-
price. That's all added
That's
after
crazy
the fact.
pricing. And that's obviously because it's a heavy rescue.
Correct.
AMR doesn't pay $488,000.
No, they also
in
use
ambulance.
vans. You don't want a van.
Yeah, well, doesn't New Bedford have that? Isn't
No.
what New Bedford has? They're,
No, they all have regular ambulance, box ambulances like we do.
yeah, Class A thing. Yeah.
The caveat to this, which actually is a benefit, in my opinion, is this wouldn't be traded, our current older ambulance would not be traded in. We would
Add
keep
that
it,
as a backup.
bingo. So now if, God forbid, something goes down with a motor and we're out of an ambulance for 6
Yeah.
months, we have something we can use and not lose that extra revenue.
Would you be running it occasionally just to keep it going?
Yeah, that we could do a 3-man weave with the
Because
ambulances.
the
to
second
make sure that
ambulance
they
is not
stay
much
in use.
newer. I mean, that thing is still,
It's 2017.
and the other one's 16, like at the end of
I
the
thought it
day.
was newer than that.
Yeah, you're gonna,
But that's
2
what
years
the
down the
point
road,
being.
you're gonna look
But-
at doing this
That-
again.
Exactly, that's exactly the point, like, maybe not next year, but the year after that, realistically, if we're still in a 2-year
Get
waiting
creative with the
plan,
article again.
we're gonna absolutely
Tell the
have to
next
repeat
guy.
this.
You know
Tell him
what
this guy.
right?
We're gonna have to
Make a note of
repeat
this in a couple of years. Because you won't
Okay,
hear-
I'll already create the 2025, 2026 budget notes. I'll do that right now.
I'm getting close.
What is the average mileage per year on an ambulance?
The 2016 currently has 72.
It's not bad.
10 to 12,000 a year.
Yeah, it doesn't get a lot of mileage, it gets hours.
It's
Yeah.
the idle hours
Idle
that's
hours.
the issue.
Yeah,
So we're fortunate because of how close St. Luke's Hospital is. It's, from the furthest parts of town, it's 11 miles. And they don't do a lot of useless driving. It's, they go from that building to this building, and then maybe to
Yeah,
the
it's
north
the
station to
idling
check
that's
the
killing
fire
you.
engines up
It's
there.
the
but it's
idle
all-
hours that kill
It's
you.
all idle hours that kill you.
You gotta get brighter strobes.
Be LEDs now, right?
Well, in a few years, when we go to order the next new ambulance, they'll have solar panels on the roof and we'll be all set.
Plug in.
You don't have wings?
all right.
So, Mr. Kelly, is that it for
And the
articles?
next article is, we're just coming to the town meeting to approve the firefighter collective bargaining agreement. The first year was a 0 with the signing bonus paid for through the ARPA funds.
Mhm.
And then the second and third year were 2%. There's not a lot of difference between that and the other one.
Is this also coming out of ARPA?
Pardon?
This is also coming out of ARPA?
Yeah, so they've already been, the ARPA money is under the purview of the selectmen. It's already been paid, but belt and suspenders, I think it's also good to bring the CBA into the town meeting and have the town meeting approve it. Technically, once you fund it with $1, it's legal, but it's better optics to bring it to the town meeting. And that's the fire articles.
All right. Well, if there's any other questions for the chief while we have him here?
Chief, are you having a retention problem with your staffing?
No. Right now, we're fully staffed.
Knock on some wood, please.
He just did.
I
It's
did.
okay.
Right now, we're fully staffed, and the feeling that I get right now is we should remain that way for at least the next 12 years,
That's great.
Really?
because that's when I retire.
Oh.
You think you're the next retirement?
If everything goes according to plan, I should be.
Well, that'll be great for continuity.
50% of the staff are very young.
So 5 of the 8 have 15 months or less on the department.
Now, if you can get a bunch of young people to be call firefighters,
We're getting there.
yeah.
We're getting there. A lot of our part-time EMS employees happen to live either in town or within spitting distance of the town line, and many of them are interested and have already begun training as call firefighters.
What's the age limit on that?
You can start as young as 18, and you can go all the way up to 65 unless we do that.
Still gonna have to stay with your practice stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of getting burnt out with what I'm doing, so I don't know. I keep that in mind.
Quick question, side note, and this is actually in relation to the fire yesterday. I noticed they're starting to use drones. Are you guys looking into doing something like that, or?
I have one of my career members does have his drone
I
license.
know who that person is.
You do. We don't have a drone program as of yet. We don't have any department-owned drones. The Department of Fire Services does, the City of New Bedford does. There's several other communities that
Downey
do.
has one.
So it's up and coming. It helps.
Especially if it's got flare and
Kind of
stuff.
with an over,
Is that
yeah.
where all the helicopters were flying over yesterday?
Yes.
There was about 3 or 4 helicopters just
Mhm.
circling around, circling
Yeah,
around.
the city had a
And then they have their
general
own
fire,
drone.
and a lot of injuries, and
Missing people.
Mhm.
they still have a few unaccounted for.
No, it's,
Have they
yeah,
finally?
they found it.
You know, they're looking for somebody.
Building,
Fly that sucker.
building department has this drone.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
building assessors, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Chief, thank you for coming in tonight,
Thank you.
and we will talk again.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chief.
As far as the warrant goes, the other articles that we haven't discussed is in the, under revolving funds. There's going to be an article to create a soil conservation board revolving fund.
Where's that on this sheet? Is that on?
Number
is that-
12.
Number 12.
Okay. Also, it's right there, okay.
And that way, from the, especially, the inspections, et cetera, you can pay for them out of the fees that would be charged. Because they now do drone inspections for how much, to estimate how much material is actually taken out.
So that number that you had there, the 20,000.
That's what, that there's a change to the soil board that, I put that as a note, change to the soil board that, budget that the Board of Selectmen did last night that I'll be bringing forward to talk to you folks about.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be.
But that would be the limit that you could take out.
Okay.
I've got Todd and town council looking into the school tuition to see if we need an article to assign it to any particular place, or just let it go through, be certified, and then become free cash.
Is that automatic, though, that it hits the town side? That's the,
Once the money is taken out for the sped reserve fund, then yes, it would.
it has to come back to the town.
It would go to, it's going into the general fund. Unless it's assigned, but we're investigating it
Unless it's
by town meeting.
Okay.
The school is coming in with an article on the solar array over the parking lot. And it's to replace the cursage, which would be transferred to the town.
And how's that being paid for?
There's no cost to the town. And the town would get the benefit of, or the school would get the benefit of the
Panels, and then we get the cursage, I think that's what I remember
Yes.
saying. Okay.
And the other new article is an article coming from town clerk that we're defining right now with council as far as the scheduling of election day.
What's the intent for that? They're gonna like set something in stone,
Well,
or, I mean permanently, I mean instead of changing it every year?
technically, you have it in stone now.
So what's this?
And so there's an issue with charter versus bylaw versus how it's done, and the fact that, especially with COVID and some of the flexibility that was given, this is all got to be straightened out.
I got you.
And it's not just this town. The consent agenda is a typical consent agenda, as you know. The first three articles, we know a little bit about prior year payments, $1,481.13. Deficits, we should know in a week to two. The stabilizations, you can see there my recommendations. And you've seen my recommendations as far as free cash. CPC's got one more meeting to do, and they will then have a complete budget. It'll be pretty much a repeat of past years, different things for the historical commission, like the fence, etc., not the floor of the church.
Yeah, they held that, I think, right?
Yes. Buzzards Bay's coming back in. They will have, they've had more property acquired beyond the property they're interested in. It's my understanding that the town now has access to the property. I'm sure Buzzards Bay will come to talk to you at one of your next meetings. Pardon?
Prior to this annual town meeting?
Yeah. This isn't your last one.
Oh, because I thought we were gonna be
I
trying
thought we were
to
done.
wrap this up tonight. So it's like, how many unknowns do we have?
Well, I've got to give you the warrant. But CPC's got one more meeting. We can go through the budget tonight. It's pretty much all done. There's some items that might be revisited by the Board of Selectmen. They haven't said they are going to revisit them, but they might be. And there are a couple that were changed last night that I can go over with you folks tonight.
All right, I mean, what I'd like to do is go in order with the budgets that we held last week and start, and then just go forward from there.
All right.
So we're gonna go right to our FinCom budget, which I held last week. It's the first one.
That budget was, the salaries were decreased because of the, when we looked over a number of years, it was expended in the past.
Right, I mean, I held it just in case. I wanted to make sure that Kathy was not gonna get shortchanged.
No,
So that's why I didn't wanna rush into that one.
that was not our intent.
Right, and I didn't think it was, but I still, you know, I see something looks a little different, I'm like, all right, there's no need to rush into any of this stuff until we're certain. So, it's pretty self-explanatory. Any discussion on our FinCom budget? All right, if there's no discussion, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so our FinCom budget, request of $2,900 is recommended. All right, so the next one we held was Board of Selectmen, which is tab number 3 in our binders. So, Mr. Kelly, I'm going by the old binder right now, so if the final number's changed, just give me, let me know.
Right.
So we held this one last week. So the overall budget is actually down. So the recommendation for town administrator is for $269,835.
Or,
Right? Or is that changed?
for what?
For the select board?
I have 27908, if you put in new sheets.
Oh, is that the new one?
27908.
All right, see, I'm going by the old one. That's- So it's 279,
270,
270,
908.
908.
okay.
It's, 252, 608 is the salary line.
252, 608. Okay, so that still represents a decrease from what was originally budgeted last year. And the amount last year was 278,391. So this year, the recommendation is 270,908. Was any further discussion on this budget? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the recommendation passes unanimously. Okay, the next one we held was town accountant, which is tab 4.
Did we do reserve fund? What? Did they do reserve fund? Did you vote the reserve fund?
We did, where's that on the tabs here? Because I'm just going by,
I thought we did.
I think we did do
Yeah,
reserve fund.
250? I thought we did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did reserve fund.
All right.
Yeah, we did. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, and then we did all the other ones under the purview of the Board of Selectmen, legal, town buildings, sealer and weight, street lighting, miscellaneous cable, regional. We did all that.
All right. Town account.
Also, I don't think, we didn't have town accountant in our original
Right.
binder, right? So it's in the new,
The new packet.
okay. I gotta find that one here. All right, yeah. let's
The one is 135.
Okay, so let's see what we got here.
135.
Oh,
On the phone?
I was looking at my old packet stuff. Thank you.
I should have worn my contacts tonight. This lettering seems like it gets smaller and smaller every week.
Blame him.
Nick, man, come on.
Want some cheetahs?
You want cheese?
Yeah, we gotta get this bigger, man.
Want the light on your phone?
You need to do 11 by 17 now, Mick, we need to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Alright.
We have to increase our budget line item so we can accommodate the paper size
I have my
difference.
contacts in, so it's.
Our magnifying glasses.
Yo, stop paper magnifying glasses.
Alright,
Now
so
are
it
you
looks
trying to-
like,
Wage salaries are one
so the budget, overall, the budget is up 1.84%, from last year. Salary-
Primarily from salaries.
Yeah,
Salary.
Yep.
that's contractual,
And recruiting.
okay. So all of the expenses are,
We're down.
yeah,
Mhm.
down on level funded.
Yep.
So the total budget, the town administrator, Board of Selectmen is recommending $223,069 for FY '24 compared to last year, which was $219,44. Any discussion on the town accountant budget? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so it passes unanimously. I'll give you that back. This is your packet, right?
Yep, thank
All right, I believe the next one we held was treasurer collector. Yeah, which is.
A number of these that were held was so we could adjust the clerical
Right.
issues in them.
Got that, all right. See if I can see this one.
Is that the adjustment then?
Yes.
Salaries went up from 186 to 202.
Yep.
Expenses went up 239, 437 to 260, 37.
What was that?
Expenses is increased from 239, 437 to 260, 37.
That's,
8.6.
That's all
that's
in.
the
That's
bottom
all in.
line.
That's all in, not expenses.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the biggest increase was due to postage, right?
Yep. Well, the tax title attorney fees were moved to legal.
Mm-hmm.
And we added 15 from town postage there because it's a contractual issue to send out the bills. It just simplifies the accounting.
The number's the same and the logistics are different. Yeah.
Yeah, so the increases are mainly due to contractual things.
And moving from one.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Board of Selectmen recommendation for FY '24 for the treasurer collector is $260,037 compared to last year, which was $239,437.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Passes unanimously. Next one is technology. We held that. Yeah, I don't have that. That's not it, so. All right.
Yeah,
Find them so
I got
quick,
you.
Eric.
I
You're
got
finding
you.
them quick.
How are you finding it so quickly?
Secretarial.
155, thank you.
All right, so I know there's a lot of changes to this budget, right?
Quite a bit, and
Yes.
Because of.
that's why
Yeah, the email.
Yes.
Mr. Monte.
Well, no, it was a good explanation. Good work, Nick.
It makes
So-
sense to put it in this budget because then you can start to track all of your
Yes.
technology.
So in essence, the growth in this budget is because technology has been we're consolidating it all.
Mhm.
So it's been taken out of some other departments and put here.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, that third page in the memo shows like reallocation totals 44,000.
Yeah.
It's just from moving from one budget into the IT.
So we have a
So how much, what'd you say,
$20,000.
Yeah, so that's the majority of the increase
Yeah.
right there.
So yeah, 27 is other stuff then.
And
Is that-
we've got a yearly increase going up in Munis.
Mhm.
Because Munis is getting more expensive, but
Mhm.
And there was-
it's your financial software.
and there are certain things like,
I say we go back to the 15 column paper. Old school.
Ledger paper, we could do
Yeah,
that.
we can do that.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do that instead?
You, track the
We'll
line feet.
phase it in, over 2 years.
I'm pretty sure if I go digging in my attic, I'll actually have some of that paper.
I think I have a case of it at home.
So we basically have two tech people, all right?
yeah,
We're looking at one of them, and,
Tony from EMA was the other
Tony.
one.
okay, yeah. So, I mean, look,
And,
we do a
they
lot.
do a lot
Oh, yeah.
for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
look, there's no doubt about that. And in this day and age of technology that we're in right now, this is like a huge thing. I mean, this isn't going anywhere. I mean, we're gonna keep dealing with this
Yes.
over and over again. And I think, at some point, I think the state may have to consider, how we have Chapter 70 for schools, Chapter 90 for
Yeah,
highway.
that's-
I think they may have to create a chapter for technology because the cost is incredible of how rapidly it increases and how much more technology we need for everything. I mean, we're so dependent on it now. And now, I mean, there's no turning back now, right? I mean, we just have to, we gotta do this.
Well, when you look at the schools with
Yeah.
all the kids having laptops,
Yeah,
and I learned that all the curriculum now and all the materials with the curriculum is bought through high tech.
Yeah, my own personal experience in the field is, it's definitely increasing, mostly on the licensing side of things, subscriptions and that sort of thing, because there's no more just walking in and picking up Office off the shelf and buying it.
and you have to.
You have to subscribe to it, you gotta give me a credit card, and once
Well,
a year they
you're
renew
at the mercy of this technology because you have to keep up with the upgrades, correct?
Yep.
Would this be something that would fall under adding a reserve fund to this?
That's what I was just gonna suggest, that we maybe start looking, maybe next year.
For what?
We seem
Doing
to
a
add reserve funds to
for
an
technology.
enterprise fund or whatever you want, I think.
Well, it's.
It wouldn't be an
State-
enterprise.
No, it would
fund.
be a reserve fund.
The problem is, reserve funds you get fees in,
To feed it.
and you put it in to reserve it
For a future expense that's above and
to
beyond.
pay for the services that those fees are paying for.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, there's gonna be some increased costs through partial years that you guys aren't gonna be able to count. I'll use Office as an example, because Microsoft will turn around and say, okay, in August, they increase their rates for their cloud service for whatever reason, that you guys don't foresee. Nobody foresees, I don't even foresee it. So having some kind of reserve fund or something where we can put a little bit of cash to just compensate that, so we don't have a problem down the road where we're bouncing
Yeah, like
money
if
back and
servers
forth.
go down, I mean, I know we've got a lot of issues in town with older servers.
The police department, right, they have.
Yeah. As long as the budget's budgeted correctly, so it's not bare bones, it's okay. But I do think a good point is maybe we fund a small article every year for capital infrastructure in case something happens. I know Todd mentioned he does that in other towns, so like even if it's $50,000 a year, if something big goes down, you at least have an article. Not saying we're gonna spend it every year, but at least it's there in case of that, something like that.
Because that police station server makes me nervous,
Yeah,
so.
and it's like, you're not gonna get that in the operating budget to
No.
fix that. It would just go to a reserve fund at that
Right.
point, but at least the capital would be there to replace copiers, stuff, stuff that needs
I
continuous.
mean, I think it's good that all the technology is getting consolidated, right? As
Mhm.
best as we can. From the email that you sent, correct me if I'm wrong, I was reading through it. It seemed like the police station and the schools are gonna be separate from
For the-
the other departments?
For the article,
Or just
Is
being
that-
like the tech, everything
Not-
being
oh,
connected?
from like the fiber?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they'll all be connected. We're not really gonna be tied into school. There'll be access there to be tied in, but we're not gonna like, when I talk to Patrick, the IT Patrick from the school, there's a lot of heavy restrictions that
Yeah,
like
they got a
need
lot
to
of
be in
things
place
now.
at school.
mhm.
So,
Same thing with the police. I know.
yeah, so we'll still have a connection there. We can still, utilize phone system at the police station. They can utilize internet from us too, but there's certain things where,
'Cause I just think
It's-
that's-
They're gonna be able to get to us.
Yep.
We will not
Yeah,
get to
so
them.
I just, the reason I brought that up was, unfortunately, there was another tragedy this week, right?
Yep.
In Nashville. So I think it's gonna be crucial going forward for, excellent communication between the school and the police station. Just in case.
that's one of the big
That's
things
one of
with
the
five.
things.
We'll be able to feed every single camera in town can go to the police station.
That was gonna be my next
Yeah.
question. You have the ability to do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So there could always be some eyes on a screen somewhere saying, hey, that something doesn't look right there.
Yeah.
Let's hurry up and get down there.
That's part of the technology article too, separate from this budget.
The
I
250
don't know if the
article.
police department will have personnel shortages to sit there and watch.
Well,
and
at
monitor.
least we have
If something goes wrong, they can call it
At least
out.
we have the SRO down there.
Mhm.
Well, you've got the SRO in the building, and the envelope of the building is being hardened. They've done their security audit. We're going to be having security audits of the rest of the public buildings, and there'll be steps taken through the next couple of years to harden all the buildings and to restrict certain access.
Didn't the Nashville shooter literally shoot her way in through
Yeah.
the door? Like,
Yeah,
No,
but the
sure,
glass,
getting bullet-
the glass was not hardened, or the film was not put over the door that would stop that.
How are our schools, how are the doors at our schools?
I'm not gonna answer that.
Okay.
I don't know that you want that out there.
Yes.
Yep, I am very confident that there has been a process, but that's been going on for a year to take care and increase annually the security of the education buildings. But I'm not going to publicly say what was done.
Okay.
Smart.
I mean, it's just, it's sad. I mean, we get to the point where we have to put like metal bars on doors and windows. I mean, it's just crazy, right? I mean,
But now that becomes a fire issue, safety.
right,
issue.
exactly. I mean, it's like,
It's
geez.
more along the lines of, do you replace a door with a steel door versus a door that's got a wooden door or one of the old-fashioned glass doors.
Yeah. All right, so going back to our technology budget, the total being recommended by our Board of Selectmen is in the amount of, correct me if I'm wrong, because these numbers are getting blurrier. 217,925? Any further discussion?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
No one's opposed? Passes unanimously. No, I wanna hold on.
Oh, yeah, you might as well hold
You
on.
find the next one. You find the next one.
Town clerk,
Town clerk.
and this was
That's easy.
held
That's the next
because of another issue with the clerical requests.
See it.
It just takes me a little bit to focus here.
Made it?
Yeah.
Does that help you?
So the Board of Selectmen recommendation is in the amount of $151,909.
309.
309.
309, okay. Compared to last year, it was 142,777.
Just one question, the salaries clerical, that $5,000 increase is just because of step and COLA and about $968 of a reclass?
968 is a reclass.
She also had one of her employees go from 25 hours to 30.
Okay.
Previously, that happened in this current, like FY '23.
So, but that would be embedded in the 64 then already?
It's embedded in this.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the 5,000, the
You've
52.
got two employees.
Yeah.
They have steps in COLA,
Okay.
and then they had the reclassification. And they had increase of 2 hours, was it? 5.
Yeah.
Each, or?
No, just one.
1.
I'm sorry, but I thought Nick said it was in 2023 already.
In 20, like the budget was already set for 23, and then they made the change.
So it's not set, that is not included in the $64,000 amount in the
No.
2023 original budget?
Right.
That's what, okay, yes, perfect. That's the missing piece. Thank you.
Any further discussion in this budget? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. That was town
I
clerk.
think the next change is soil board.
I think I got a check mark next to soil board.
But the Board of Selectmen changed it
Okay, so it's-
last night.
soil board is number 10. So as of last week, when we made when we took a vote on it, the total was 61,152. Oh wait,
No.
that's conservation. Oh, soil, okay, sorry. As of last week, it was 1,500 was the total.
Right.
So how has it changed?
They added a line for contracted services for $20,000. And it's now the bottom line. So it's 700 for salaries and 20,800 for expenses, for a grand total of 21,500. And that's the first year money to do all the inspections necessary. And then that's why we're also putting an article in to create the revolving fund where those fees will be going into it. But you have to have a year of fees before you.
So next year, this won't be there, that 20,000 won't be there.
Correct.
So it's basically just to get on the right track.
Seed money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the amended amount is 21,500 for the soil board. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. All right, the next one we held, I have as planning.
Correct.
I just want to see how it looks different, if it looks different than. All right, so it's gone down from what we looked at last week. So it looks like the change was in salaries clerical.
Correct.
So what is it, it's a reclassification?
No, there's a reclass that was added to it of 258, but the deduction is that the person who's in the position now is leaving prior to the end of the year.
Okay, so they already factored that in.
And so we cut the hours.
Okay,
Because we're not replacing.
We're partially replacing. Instead of half-time, it's going to be approximately 9 hours a week.
and they still have the town planner position at 75.
Correct.
And this, so,
There's an opportunity there with the part-time position in the building office to which is a 26-hour position, to combine the two, have a full-time position, have someone there full-time, and we could combine the two, physically combine the two offices.
I mean, so my question is, I mean, because it seems like we're having a hard time finding a town planner, right? So,
Well, we were, now we're in the ballpark with the money. We just haven't advertised until there was a decision made if you were going to.
I mean, is there any thought of, the planning board putting it out there to advertise it as either a part-time or full-time position? Because maybe there are people out there that don't want to work full-time but would do part-time work in that capacity.
To do what has to be done with doing the planner job, the grant writing job,
Is it
and
full-time?
the updating of the master plan and all the subsidiary plans, and dealing with such things as the MBTA housing issue, you're gonna need a full-time planner. And we've tried to find a part-time planner, and we couldn't find one that was qualified.
Where have we looked on,
Is it
where have
advertised?
we advertised this?
We looked through the ACIP, and we've talked to a couple of the professional organizations, and I've had multiple meetings with Serpent.
So we've actually advertised it as a part-time position?
We've advertised, went out, I can't say we advertised, but we went out to all the organizations and said, this is what we want. And they came back and said, you're not going to be able to do that with a part-time person.
Because I'd like to see a part-time person personally, and then earn that position's money to bump up to full-time using grants.
You can try to do that, but you will not get someone who's capable grant writer.
There's gotta be some retiree or something. We got Todd. There's somebody that's,
We're all leaving you
well, I get that, but,
shortly.
I get that, but we're not always gonna have, everybody's when we leave, we're gonna have somebody that's gonna
You
come back in.
need someone here. If you don't do it, you're going to end up having less and less an opportunity to get funding, because the state is not funding local aid. They're funding specific targeted
Mhm.
programs.
I understand we can get grant money, a lot of grant money, once we have a planner.
My
But we need
recommendation
somebody who
is,
needs to.
my
work with-
recommendation is the planner. full-time, if you don't get it, you're probably gonna lose a couple more staff people.
I know. The way I look
I
at it
know
is
one
that
you'd lose very shortly.
I mean, the way, the planner pays for themselves with their ability to get the
get
grant
grants.
money. So, but this revolving door is frustrating, so I think we need to
Bite the
pay what is
bullet.
necessary to bring somebody in who can do the master plan, who can do all of the things,
You can't,
and put the town,
you can't apply for a grant until
Without-
you get all those other plans in
Right.
place.
No, I get it.
I just don't know that you can do that with a part-timer.
So this is the max, that would be the
Mhm.
max number that we're funding it at, 75.
Yes,
So,
and according to Jeff Walker at Serpent, that's within the ballpark.
but we wouldn't necessarily have to pay that. Say, all right, say we're paying up to that, but based on your experience, we're gonna start you off
You're
at,
You're
That
gonna
sign up
need,
at
75 is
65.
somebody 1 to 3 years.
Yeah,
That's
1
pretty
to
much
3
entry
years.
level, last time I checked.
yeah,
That's not giving us an experienced person.
that's giving you someone who you hope has got 2 years in a major urban environment that's
Great, yeah.
learned the job and wants to come and be the head of the department. Of
I mean,
two.
and the reason why I brought up the part-time issue is just to increase the opportunity to get somebody in the door.
Hmm.
You know, because, maybe we can't find somebody full-time, I don't know.
You're gonna find someone for 75.
Yeah, you just haven't advertised it yet.
No,
Right.
because as soon as this board and the selectmen who have voted to go forward to town meeting, we can advertise. If town meeting approves it, then you still have all the money in the budget that you haven't been paying a planner, and they could start right after town meeting.
So if we have a full-time planner here, he or she will be required to be here at least, 32 hours a week?
They're- It's
Well,
it's a 35-hour job.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know what the number of hours were to be able to get benefits.
But it's an exempt position. It's not hourly.
Salary.
I think we just,
I mean, so-
we have to pay in order to get somebody who can do the job.
Right now, if you look at South Coast and you look at the municipalities around here, when you were talking about pay scales, every major circular highway you cross is $10,000 to $15,000. Other than for the town administrator, town manager jobs. There, it's about $20,000. From this side of 495 to the other side of 495. From 495 to 128. And then inside 128.
The only reason I asked about the hours were that, for the fact that if we're gonna have a full-time person in here getting paid $75,000 a year, I hope that they're gonna be like down in a building at least more than 20 hours a week,
Oh,
working,
well, you also want them
because
to,
where's the accountability gonna be, right? I mean,
yeah, but you also want them to be able to walk out onto a site and say, this isn't being done right.
Mhm.
Or walk with the highway superintendent, the conservation agent, and say, all right, let's look at these plans and see if the plans are what the developer's putting in.
Why, could we sit there and say, okay, we'll approve this with 75 and start advertising at a part-time to further Mike's thing? Proposal to try and get somebody?
I'm not in favor of that.
I don't know why we keep on, I don't know why we keep on going back to part-time, or
Because
part-time can't do all of
because
the
our
jobs.
past history is our town planners, other than Doug, hasn't really done anything for this town.
You haven't
That's
had
lack of
one.
oversight then.
You
So
haven't
somebody
had
That's
one.
been the problem.
But that's lack of oversight, isn't it? Somebody hasn't held that person accountable.
So-
That's why I
Who's-
brought, that's why I
Right.
brought that up.
So is that not the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to be like,
And the
where's our master
planning
plan?
board.
And the planning board.
Yep.
That'd be the plan.
No, it isn't the planning board. Planning board oversees as far as policy and that type of direction. It's the town administrator and the board of selectmen.
That was lack of oversight. If you had somebody who had tasks and did not
Mhm.
deliver, that's lack of oversight.
You had full-time people that made major mistakes.
We
That
had a
didn't-
full-time planner that made mistakes.
No,
too.
that didn't collect real estate taxes,
Right.
that allowed double billings.
Mhm.
It's not a question of full-time or part-time, it's a question of management.
I just think we need to start paying to get the services that we need for this town. That's my, if 53,000 for a full-timer, obviously it didn't last, right? We were a stepping stone. Do we want to continue to be a stepping stone? Or do we want to bring in somebody that could actually do the job and stay here? Because right now, we're in a bind.
What is it,
Yeah,
something like a civil engineering degree for some,
Our urban planning degree, there are a number of degrees that the ACIP or AP, alphabets of the planning organization will certify.
There's a planner school, basically.
I mean, Harvard has them.
Harvard
Yeah.
has an MIT, BU.
Not saying that we should get a Harvard or MIT, because let's face it,
Not that you
we can't
probably
pay
would
them
at
to pay down
74.
their tuition, their student loans, but, I mean, we just need to get somebody that could that come in and do right by, and I know we've had some issues in the past, but.
That's what I'm concerned with.
But
is
just because
don't
we had
have-
issues in the past, doesn't mean you don't go that you have to go down that path again.
Right.
You gotta rectify what the issue was, not put yourself in that same position, which is oversight,
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think, look, a town planner is crucial, right? I mean, we need to
Oh, there's
have.
no argument there.
We need to have a town planner, because we don't want to be losing out on opportunities to get grants.
Beyond that, you've got a town that's got a graying population,
That's got what?
a graying.
Graying?
Great.
Oh, great.
No, I make sure that does not happen.
These guys don't have to worry about it, they're all set.
And
four of us here don't have that problem.
I'd like
Five.
to ask a rhetorical question. Where's the pharmacy that's located in this town?
There isn't one.
It's because
We
they
get
closed down,
nothing.
because there's 5 of them
Right
within
next
a
to
mile.
Right next to our stoplights.
Walgreens, we got
Yeah, that's
Walgreens right down the
here.
road.
Yeah.
CVS.
Next
is
to high
right
school.
there.
In the
You
supermarket.
go to most towns and
Or you go to
you've got
Amazon.
CVS on one corner and Walgreens on the other.
That's not
Yeah.
bad in this town, though. I mean, one thing that I love about this town is the fact that, you know, we can feel like we're in the country, but we don't have to travel a ton of miles to go to the grocery store. I mean, it's-
And you lose all that revenue.
You can go in different directions.
You lose
That's
all
always
that
been
tax
my-
revenue.
Yeah, well, that's-
We're hanging
that's-
everything on
All right, so
property
that's to
tax.
my
Yeah, the
point.
dilemma.
That's the other point I was gonna make with having a good town planner is economic development, correct? So they would take a role in some economic development, I would imagine, developing the master plan for the town. Which is gonna be important going forward, because we struggle enough just with the tax revenue that we generate with residential property tax. We're so dependent on that, and eventually, that's not even gonna cover our fixed cost and salary increases.
We had a discussion today with whether we will actually make the new growth figure of 250,000.
We're
We
running
might
out of
not.
spaces
No,
in
it
terms of
isn't.
development.
You're not running out of spaces. You just don't have development. You don't have sewer.
Yep.
You don't have property that's, a lot of it is developable.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You have,
The town doesn't want that. They want to be a farming community and they want to maintain that.
Yeah, but I think one area that we could look at as possible economic development would be 55 and older housing, right?
Or assisted living.
Yeah, because we have, like you said, we have a graying, older community, right? We're all getting older.
And a number of communities make the complaint you hear that the kids that grew up in the community can't move in because there's no housing stock for them to buy. But if you had areas where your graying population could move to, that would open up a housing stock for younger folks.
If they could afford it at the current prices, you know,
Well,
that's the whole other.
You can afford existing housing stock a lot more than you can the $500,000 subdivision that are being built.
Well, I wouldn't want to be building a brand new house today, not with the cost of all the consumers and the consumables.
I think the other thing we
$280
probably should look
square foot.
into is revisiting the whole cannabis discussion again. I mean, there's towns that are taking, and I'm not saying being dispensaries, but growing facilities.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
like I said, the town doesn't want any of that stuff.
Not-
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
don't
but well, it doesn't
understand.
matter, I mean,
Yeah.
but, yeah, they don't want it, but they don't want their property taxes going
I
up.
know, and that's what I said.
That's what
We're
I'm saying.
depending on
So
So
voting
we're
on
gonna
a lot
have
of
to,
things.
we may
with
have to.
Solar
look at stuff like
panels and
this.
cannabis.
But
Apparently, we need an apothecary.
that's a different
But the
story.
thing, I think at the end of the day, a qualified town planner, right, is someone who could help accomplish
look at all that
both. Find a happy medium. We want to maintain the look and feel of Acushnet, but we need to find other revenue sources, right?
I-
We ain't gonna find that happy medium sitting around this table.
I
okay?
had a very competent planner in Millbury that in the period I was there brought in $4 million to rehab the center of the town.
And how much would this person cost?
No, $4 million to rehab the center of the town.
And how much would it cost to bring in this person to a town like this?
$75,000.
Right now,
Yes, not
That-
even close.
that person,
135, 150.
no, about 110.
Okay, I wasn't that far off. But the point being, right, that, isn't that, I'm not saying we
But
need that person.
she started out, 20 years
Yeah, we'll
ago.
get them at 75, and if they bring us in a few million, then we can.
But that's what we need, that's the difference it can make for this town. I'm not saying we
Sure.
need $4 million to revitalize the center of town, but that person's worth their weight in gold right now.
Right.
To be able to bring in this money that we can then use to do whatever it is that we need, infrastructure, like, I keep on worrying about the water lines, right? Like, how many times have I heard about the stupid water lines?
But-
Because those things are older than,
150 years on Slocum, right, I believe?
but that's the thing, like,
No, it's less than that, but about 120.
Okay.
awesome. That's
Round
like-
up, round down. Yeah.
It's not,
We're counting the life of our water lines in centuries.
Yes.
Like legit centuries.
yes,
Like,
And that's not the only street, there's several of them.
no.
but, okay, I think we need to start and take the initial step. And that is to find somebody who can help us get on the right path, because right now, we're not there.
I agree, I mean, we just.
And-
we gotta
That's,
Get some qualified candidates in the door.
And South Coast is probably the most neglected area as far as the state government's concerned.
All right, I think we've had some good discussion on this one. No, it's much needed,
Yep.
I mean,
We need an apothecary.
we gotta discuss all these things because the future of our town is gonna be impacted by this. So the recommended budget by the Board of Selectmen is $90,758. My eyes are
correct.
holding up here. All right, so I think we've discussed this quite a bit. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No, you abstain.
Courteously.
Hmm?
Abstain courteously.
Cursley abstain.
Okay, next one, Police Department was the next one we held, which is tab 13, binders. Eric, if you want to pull that up and see if it's different. I don't think it's changed. This this one hasn't changed, right, Mr.
We
Kelly?
held that because
No.
we wanted him to come and talk about the
Because of
overtime.
The overtime.
So, all right, folks, so what's your feeling on the overtime line item here? Do you feel like you want to adjust it now? Make a little adjustment now?
You can
I'd like to
always
see a
do
little
it
bit of
at the fall
adjustment
town
myself.
meeting. When you see what you're gonna get in revenue.
Well, he kind of gave us the average, right, of what's expected, so it's 40,000 a month for the next 3 months,
Mhm.
approximately in overtime. So that's 120. It's probably already 10 in the hole after,
You said he's 120 something?
No, we're 140 in the hole.
He's at
but then there was a
399
balance, but then it was gonna get balanced out, right, by
Yeah.
the,
Yeah,
By the
excess
ex,
and-
but
right.
by the excess in salaries.
You're
Yes.
looking at 140, 150 in the hole.
At the end of the year.
Yeah. So if you wanted to fully fund this, you'd have to go up to approximately 400,000.
Well, I don't think we necessarily have to fully fund it, right?
Yes, sir,
I
we'll
mean,
take
at
a
this
baby
point,
step.
you know, maybe go halfway on that.
Mhm.
78,000.
Then we don't balance.
We don't balance. Well, we don't balance as of today. You gotta remember, revenues are a moving target,
Yep.
state aid's a moving target. That's why the fall town meeting, you could start the process of making a commitment to, once that additional monies come in, assigning it here, and then when you go to the 6 months from that, and you go into this process next year, you could take another step on it.
Yeah, but do we actually having a fall town meeting, or?
You should have a fall town meeting every year with what's
Has been the
going on.
case, But yeah,
Just,
that's a recent thing that has started up again, but yeah.
but just because you don't know when the legislature's gonna pass a budget. They rarely pass
That's
it
true.
by July 1.
Yeah.
Mr. St. Jean, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's severely underfunded, and, you know, to present a budget that we know is not accurate to the town meeting is not fair. It's not fair to the police department, it's not fair to the taxpayer, it's not fair to anybody else.
Mhm.
So, my feeling is we should present a budget that represents the actual expenditures or foreseen expenditures. Now, if they want to make adjustments at the town meeting, so be it. But I feel that it's our responsibility as a finance committee to present to the town meeting members a accurate budget, or a budget that accurately represents the expenditures or the foreseen expenditures by the chief of the department heads.
So go over
Those-
full
those are my
140. Go over full 140. The
We'll go
expected.
with
I don't
400. I mean, that's quite a jump.
I think we should meet somewhere in the middle.
I'm thinking 200,
On, you thinking what?
bump it up 200. Halfway.
200?
You said 400, so I'm saying halfway for that.
Oh, no,
No,
To fully
140.
fund it, right?
It would
No.
be 400 to fully fund it.
Right, so.
And
right
it's
now
at
it's at-
255.
Well, right now it's at 260.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
But
260.
20.
Okay, I misunderstood you, I'm sorry, okay, all right.
But then
So-
we know that there's gonna be an excess in the permanent positions, right? So that's a natural place for
So-
funding some of it. So
Yeah.
really what we're going to be short based on these numbers so far is about 140, okay?
Mhm.
So if we split the baby and say at least 70,
70.
and
Okay.
at least then we're only looking for $70,000 elsewhere in the other town budgets, really. And let's face it, or
Mhm.
Well,
maybe some extra cash. We need free cash. We
well,
need
there's-
free
and there's
cash to
still
help.
some, and there's still
Not
some
free
unknowns.
cash, you need additional cash.
We need additional cash, but I'm saying we need free cash this year to help balance the shortfall.
Hmm.
You need additional cash.
Which,
Free cash
It is,
you can't use for an operating budget.
if we use, okay, so if we're short, okay, this year we're gonna get free cash at some point, right? If we don't put it in here now, right, and then we have to pay it later. 'Cause
Then
it's,
you get it from free cash.
then you can get, that's where I'm getting from. So this year, if we get some extra free cash, as we should, right, from places where there's extra, that would help us this year to help balance some of this shortfall.
Or if some unknowns come in a little less than,
Yeah.
than what we're originally thinking, then maybe that makes up the difference too. Who knows, right?
So could we use, if there's extra free cash this year, but we can't use it to adjust in the next town meeting?
You can't use free cash for an operating
Yes,
budget.
yes,
You could use it after the whole year is done
yeah,
if you're in deficit in an account.
if this year we're still short,
If in fiscal '23,
yes,
you're still short, we can use free
that,
cash.
yes,
You won't have to.
we won't have to, you're saying, okay. I'm
But-
glad you're so certain about that. I'm not so certain about that, but
I
okay.
am, but,
I'm trying to figure out where our sources are.
but if you wanted to split the baby, you're telling me, and put, or let's say, just round figures, put 60,000 in addition to what the Board of Selectmen recommended for
And make it
this
320.
overtime budget. That would make it 320.
320.
Do they have a they don't even have a recommendation on this one anyway.
They got 263.86.
Yes,
Yep.
BOS
Oh, they do.
recommended, yeah.
So that's your recommendation.
No, I'm saying if you wanted
But
to
that's what
do
we
it.
could do. It's a matter of getting us to a true budget.
Getting us closer to it.
That gets
Get-
you
So we do part
halfway.
They
now
get-
and then part in the fall.
So that we were not totally,
Blindsided.
Right.
Yeah,
that would-
and that would it would definitely
get it closer to a more realistic.
closer, and you could possibly, with certain additions in the fall town meeting, when you know what revenues are and you know what state aid
We
is.
could then finish funding it if
Yep.
our assumptions are too conservative on the revenue side. Then we fund it completely, and then we're all set this time next year.
Yes,
Want to bring it up to 280? From the 260?
No, it's not gonna
No,
be
we're
that.
talking
No.
320.
320.
Yeah, 320. From the
Yeah, we're gonna
260.
split the difference of
Yeah.
like 140.
And then come town meeting, fall town meeting, if we have excess, then I think it would make sense to then finish funding to an accurate budget. I'm,
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that too. It'll be difficult to swallow that pill right now.
I'll second that motion.
Well, did you
Alright, so
make
somebody,
it?
so somebody has to make the motion.
Go ahead, Sue.
It's specific relative to the salaries overtime line, about amending that to what we wanna do. Or what we're comfortable doing,
Line
just-
item 51.
you know, cause we're
Yeah.
basically just gonna bump it up to a more realistic number. It might not be
We're gonna
the,
bump it up to a number that is closer to the real number.
closer to the real number, yes.
So I make a motion to bump line item 513000, salaries overtime, to $320,386. Giving the total budget for police, of $2,693 and, $2,693,74.
Then
no,
we added 60, so it's
No.
2,713,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 million.
Nope, add 60.
5, 3.
2653 plus 60 is 27.
Calculate that one? Please,
So what's the total number?
hold on.
Should be 2713074. doing the math in my head. Who made a
Yes,
comment
you're
about me
right.
using a calculator last
Wow,
time?
and you're much faster at it than I am.
Was it
200,
Two seven,
Two
two
seven.
seven,
two
one
million, $713,074.
74.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the police budget in the amount of $2,713,074. Any further discussion on this budget? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
The town planner can give us the rest.
What is it?
The new town planner can give us the rest.
You
All
get what
right.
you pay.
The next one we held was education. So schools. So we held Old Colony and our schools.
Did you hold inspectional services?
Inspectional services? No, we voted on that last week. I remember that. Because that has the codes.
Yeah, that's it, because that
The
was the
codes.
one where the plumber, inspector and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
one of the codes, the hard
Yeah.
copy.
I thought we
codes.
held it because of the reclass clerical.
Hey, where's
Hold on.
that on here?
Inspectional.
We had it, you had it under the Board of Selectmen, even though it has its own, hold on.
Inspectional services. Tab 241.
Do we know what the number is on the upper left-hand column?
The green number.
The green number?
241.
241, got it. Yeah, we voted on this because the math didn't add up, remember?
Yeah, right, so we.
Uh,
take a vote on that
143,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm bringing it back because we had a reclass,
Okay,
a difference of 744.
I just want to see if I have it.
It's 144,237.
But we already voted on this, right?
but the numbers have
All right,
changed,
so it's
so.
changed, so what's the number now?
The bottom line is 144,237.
Increase of 744, yeah.
Okay. All right, any discussion on inspectional services?
No.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes.
Education was the one you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I just, I don't think it was actually in our tabs here.
325.
Tab 19.
Eric, if you got yours, I'll just.
What did you say it was, 325?
325, 350 is around the
Mhm.
same.
Yeah.
There you go.
And this is in
So they're all in the same, okay. All right, so do you want to take up Old Colony first?
Sure.
Mr. Kelly, any change, any updates in Old Colony?
the bottom line I have is $2,487,008.
to discuss the colony's budget. I mean, we got a good detailed presentation from Aaron Polanski, the superintendent there. You know, we have an obligation because we send a good amount of kids. The majority of the kids that go to Old Colony come from Acushnet.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, now our schools. We've had, you know, numerous discussions with our schools about their budget. Thankfully, they were able to make some cuts, which was definitely helpful. Mr. Kelly, have there been any changes since the last time the school came in?
No.
All right, so the bottom line is 16,058,088, or was that 83?
83.
83. So 16,058,083. Which is, it represents an increase of, what, 390, right? I think that's what the overall increase was. Or
6%.
2.6%. I mean,
Just so the Finance Committee knows,
no, it's more than that.
the debt
That's-
the debt was taken out of this line this year and put with the, combined with all the other debt figures. That's why the operational budget is the bottom line.
Yeah, 388, yeah.
390.
Well, I did like the fact that, you know, we got some additional detail with regards to their budget towards the end of the process. It would have been, you know, nice to have all that in the beginning of the process, but I think going forward, next year, we're gonna get that detailed line item budget similar to what OC presented to us. And that's what we need, because it makes our job a lot easier. Instead of trying to guess, well, where's this, you know, how much is that, you know, it makes it a lot easier, having every line item. That's what we need. You know, full transparency.
I think you should also congratulate the new administration in finding the difference in the figures that they were paying tuition to Fairhaven.
That's a good point, that's a good point. And then the other one was with the solar credits, right?
The solar credits, and then the town's finance staff with the double payment of the assessment. Between all of that, just the difference alone of that is close to $500,000.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, so those were definitely all good pickups. And hopefully going forward, we don't find any things like that, you know, as going forward.
It should be one step forward and not two steps back.
Right.
But there is a reason why that is the saying, right?
Well, it's part of a Springsteen song.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on our school's budget. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. So our school's budget is recommended.
DPW, we have
Oh, that's,
a reclass.
Sorry.
DPW, we have a reclass of 765.
Alright, let me go to the old one here. So DPW highway,
Yep.
so 1,006,213.
Correct.
So it went up, it just adjusted a little bit, because originally it was 1
It
million.
was a reclass, 765.
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the next one we had held was Board of Health.
There's a reclass in there for 1,165. It's tab 510.
I know, mine just, I don't know what happened here. I'm a mess here. Alright, alright, so the adjusted amount is 202,964.
Correct.
That's a 1.478% increase from last year. We have a motion?
Sorry, I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Board of Health passes.
Mhm.
All right, so then the other things we held last week were Medicare, health insurance, insurances and health insurance and golf. Those are the last that I have.
If I could just have the FinCom look at tab 850 regional, I think that was shifted a couple dollars.
What number is that on Medicare?
It's further down, it's on the corner tab is 820. It's down from that. Top left is 820.
850 is the right
Yeah.
bottom one.
The bottom one.
Okay,
3,693 is the bottom line. Buzzards Bay is 1,401, and Serpent is 2,192.
all right, so there was some small increases there.
Motion?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second on regional expenses. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Mr. Kelly, we got Medicare.
233,500. That's 911 is the tab number.
911?
Yep,
Under contributory pensions.
under pensions.
Let's see that one.
All right, so under contributory pensions, the total is 1,940,000.
235.
That's what I was gonna say, 235. there a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, next,
Employee benefits and insurance.
all right, so Mr. Kelly, where do we stand with this one? Because
The health insurance, $1,990,000,
That's the updated version, right?
correct.
Compared to, originally it was what, over
2,227,000.
So we should be happy we went up 24%.
And we're getting into the Mass Strategic Health Group. And so we will be in a group going forward. No plan design change, no provider change. Huh?
No, I'm just
Mr.
talking
Kelly,
about-
is that a good sized group now as it exists?
Yes.
So
And-
obviously,
get-
so the bigger the group,
And it's a growing group. It's.
right, that's what I was gonna
it's-
say, the bigger the group, the better it is. for
There,
cost.
So you're not so negatively impacted by
this
those
is- well,
catastrophic.
big
yeah,
liability
some
is,
of the
yeah.
smaller groups that have been around are fracturing. Some are going with Maya and some are going with Mass Strategic. We were lucky to get in. We're probably the farthest south they've gone.
That's good.
Yeah, no, that's positive, so,
And it's a 2-year commitment from them to phase us in. And for the people that were in the group, the average increase was 5 to 7%. So if we could get the 5%, and it's a better wraparound policy for retirees, and they access Canadian pharmaceuticals. So we're looking at the possibility, once all of those various things come in, that we could end up with a fairly decent situation for the future.
okay, so the total for employee group insurance is $2,367,100.
Mhm.
And I ask you to approve it, and I'm still negotiating with some of the other insurance companies. If that savings comes in, then,
That'd be a further reduction.
or transfer it to.
Police and balance the budget, yes.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right,
Water. Some rate classes.
Eric, what's the? Sorry,
450.
thank you.
so where's the adjustments we made since last time?
There was a reclass in clerical of 219 for water. So the bottom line is 1,948,191.
Compared to last year, which was 1,841,247. I mean, most of these costs are all contractual and
Correct.
fixed costs. Do we have a motion? Or does anybody want to discuss this budget further?
What have we done to, for the water bills, what have we done to kind of negotiate with the city on trying to stabilize the water rates from going up all the time?
You're under a contract with the city now, and
For the water rates?
I believe so.
How long is the contract typically?
I don't know, you'd have to ask
Yeah.
the superintendent.
Okay.
I know if I was Jamie Pont, I wouldn't be negotiating with you.
We had a period there where there's no negotiations for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a
You're,
motion.
it's my understanding you pay the same rates as the city residents.
The sewer we do, not water.
Water, you know,
Water's been going up.
all of it's going up.
No.
Yep, the only difference is we pay for all the pipes and New Bedford don't pay for, you know. We have the same
That's-
water rate and everything, but,
That's capital cost, yeah.
yeah. But they
Yeah,
don't
that
take care of
doesn't-
our water lines around like that. That's an additional cost.
Yeah, and down the road, you're gonna be hit with the
Definitely.
$65 to $85 million upgrade to the sewer treatment plant. For the
Nice.
sewer users.
Okay, we did, Eric made a motion.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second, all in favor? Okay. Water Department budget passes.
The sewer department, the reclass is 110 in the clerical line.
I'm wearing my glasses next time. I'm not wearing the contacts anymore. I'm sorry, guys.
1 million.
I got it. I got $1,071,075.
It's interesting, there's a half a dozen municipalities in the last year are negotiating with a private provider of water, Aquarian, to take over the water systems in those towns.
Why would people do that?
Because it's cheaper for those towns. Personnel costs,
Interesting, okay.
private sector, personnel costs are cheaper than public sector. Personnel costs, I guess.
So where do you get the water from?
They purchase wells.
Oh, I think we went down that road at some point. in this
No,
town.
the private company does.
They trucking it? I
No.
don't understand.
They they own the wells in the towns there. And
Right, but
maintain
they've
them.
explored drilling wells in this town before, I believe.
Huh?
I don't know, I could be wrong, I don't know, Mr. St. Jean.
They have, yes.
Yeah.
I know you purchased land to talk about it, but it's just an interesting concept. It started in Connecticut and it's moving now through
They spent quite a
parts
bit
of
of,
western
they spent
Mass
quite a
and
bit of money
Worcester
searching
County.
for
Yes, we
one
did.
Yeah,
in the town a few years back.
apparently we got a lot of it, there's a lot of flooding going around in the south end of town, and like, I guess lakes, I don't know if it was in one of the, planning meetings, they were talking about Hope Park, it's like flooding some of the streets in that area.
Yeah.
So, I don't
All right.
know.
Southeastern Mass is all
Yeah.
water.
I digress. Yeah.
All right, so the majority of the increases in this budget are contractual fixed
Mhm.
cost increases.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Golf? Golf the last one?
is this one reflect the reduction? Or the assistant?
Okay, let's see what else we have. So the only last minute change on this one is the 511400 for the assistant superintendent. They had originally upped it $2,400, but after the discussion from the Board of Selectmen with the union, that remained level at $59,300. But the bottom line doesn't change because they were just taking that from capital projects. So I can get you the updated sheet, but capital projects is $56,980.
So it just increased by the amount that they subtracted there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the bottom line doesn't change. It was just $2,400 was moved from salaries to expenses.
okay. So all right, so their total budget is $1,911,743. So, going through this budget, the majority of their increases were salary increases for clubhouse and maintenance employees. The guys at the top kept their salaries level funded. The other cost, the big increase in costs they had were inflationary costs. The cost to purchase, all the fertilizers, all that stuff, and then the leases were also increased. So any further discussion on the golf budget, or golf enterprise fund?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so golf budget is approved, recommended. Okay, so I think we've gone through all the budgets.
The warrant will enter the selectmen's recommendations, the FinCom's recommendations. It will be salaries, expenses, total. We will have a copy similar to this as an attachment to the warrant available at town meeting.
Okay. All right, so we're not gonna, obviously, it's already 9:30. We're not gonna do articles tonight. I was hoping to get everything done tonight, but we just couldn't do it. As far as availability for next week, do we have Sue? No? Okay. All right, so we're not gonna have Sue, we're probably not gonna have Pete back yet, unless he can
2 weeks.
chime in on Zoom.
2 weeks?
Well, it's 2 weeks. What
Would
date is
be-
that?
I'm still a no there.
Yeah, because that's probably gonna be worse for her that next week. So, yeah, so next week is Wednesday, April 5th, and then we got
The 12th.
the 12th. We can't go beyond that, right?
The board is looking at, their next meeting is the 10th, because the 11th is the PJ Keating meeting. So the 10th, the board is having a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then they will schedule to sign the warrant, have a meeting to sign the warrant on the 24th of April. So if you, anytime before that,
No, I think we just need to get this done next week. Look, if
Yeah, I would
Bob-
think sooner
Bob.
rather than.
can you be here next week?
Yeah.
Eric,
I'm good.
I'm here.
I'm planning to be here,
Mr. St. Jean?
Should be.
Okay.
all right, so
So we'll have a quorum with the five of us.
I think, let's see, today's Wednesday, you and I can work on the warrant tomorrow. We'll give you a draft warrant by hopefully Friday or Monday. And it won't be approved by town council, but it'll be a draft warrant.
Okay. All right, and then next week, we'll plan on just wrapping everything up. We'll get these articles done. And we have a good heads up on them.
That's the only thing we got, right, the articles.
Yeah.
We had a good overview of the articles, so I
And
think
you've got most of the costing of the articles. We'll try to get the deficit and the prior year bills done.
Yeah, you said we don't know CPC funding yet, right? We don't know what that number is.
I can,
Do you think we'll have that next week or no?
if I don't have it, I will have one that we can remove items from if they do not approve it at their next meeting. But
We're at the cutoff, right, they can't add any more articles.
Right, so it'll be I can take them off, but I
But they
will
can't
not.
add any.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll put everything on it.
Yeah, so everything we have in front of us is pretty
Should be
self-explanatory.
pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't think next week should be that difficult. So I think we did a good job getting through this to this point. It looks like, we're gonna have a balanced budget. Took a lot of adjustments along the way.
A lot of hard work on the town administrator and the finance.
The whole team, it takes cooperation of all the departments in town, right? I mean, we all have to work.
Always does.
We all have to work together to try and get, an end result of a balanced budget. And always have the residents' best interests in the back of our minds when we, make our decisions. Because we always, want to minimize any financial impact on them as best we can. And at the same time, keep our employees happy too. So it's a difficult thing to balance, to say the least.
Struggle.
There's one thing I have to remind the chair. You owe me a letter.
I was getting to that. I was getting to that. I have to do the FinCom letter that's gonna go in the warrant.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna tell you, and I didn't forget, that I'm gonna have that done, for next week. Is that okay?
Great.
All right, so, yeah, I just need the weekend to work on that. It won't take me that long, because I got a lot of it already in my head, so what I'm gonna say. All right, anybody have any old business to discuss? Any new business? Under new business, I would like to give a shout out to our FinCom member, Mr. Pete Benoit. He's not with us tonight because he's taking care of some health things for himself, but he also brought to my attention today that his dad passed just recently, on top of the fact that he's dealing with his own health issues. So I just wanted our members to know that Pete's dad had passed, and we're thinking about you, Pete. We got you in our prayers. All right, next meeting date is next week, April 5th, right here at the town hall. We're gonna finish up our deliberations. We're gonna take care of the articles and have this finished. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. No minutes? We don't have any minutes.
There's no minutes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Good night.